The Expanse, easily one of the best sci-fi shows ever made, now is being turned into a game. And currently, I gotta say, it looks very promising and very good. And we just got a new trailer showcasing a bunch of stuff. And now people are calling Expanse, well, the true successor to Mass Effect, because everyone knows that Mass Effect 5 is gonna be absolute garbage, considering the people who made Veilguard are now making it. And the people who helped Veilguard are the core team of the people making it. It's not looking good. So, anything that can replace Mass Effect, honestly, I welcome it. And, well, the Expanse is an absolutely phenomenal setting, very interesting, very fun. A lot of potential, and well, yeah.
One of the reasons The Expanse has always stood apart as a science fiction universe is that its realism goes way beyond superficial. It's actually deeply baked into the setting. Even a passing familiarity shows us that space is hostile, that society is stratified, and we learn very quickly that distance really does matter in this setting, and on top of that, gravity is important in day-to-day matters.
Looks good.
Heck, even orientation matters because, well, the sense of up and down is all over the place and never consistent. So,
Whoa! Best game ever! Oh my god, I am already sold. What the hell? Wow.
we get to see gameplay.
Whoa! Whoa! Yo! Look at this gameplay. That's really good. I like it. I love it.
Expanse game, and
Whoa.
we've got a trailer that's brand new, just released, and it turns out this is actually a
Oh my god, this game is gonna be the best thing ever, isn't it?
third-person cover-based RPG. Well, there's immediately a number of pressing questions that I had, and some of you may have had the same questions.
This looks like real gameplay, by the way. And, I mean, it looks pretty good.
And this question for me is how much of the Expanse survives once it
Also, boys, if that was not equality...
had the same
Look at
questions.
this. Look at this. Look.
And
Look. Oh, man, this is equality at its finest.
This question for me is how much
Bam!
of the Expanse survives once it becomes a game like this? Does that setting actually transfer very well into a game? Well, on the surface, the Expanse, Osiris Reborn, is very easy to describe. We have squad mates, we have dialogue, hubs, choices, cover shooting, and yes, there's a whole load of obvious Mass Effect comparisons. And that is what most of the early coverage has focused on, and I've spoken about that in the past, and no doubt today you've also watched other videos saying the same thing. But after recently having the opportunity
Dude, all of this looks so good.
myself to sit through a full developer presentation on the game, I think the more interesting question is
Okay-ish.
not whether or not this is like Mass Effect, but there's something much better that we can really be asking ourselves, and that is whether or not Alcat, the developers, are trying to translate the Expanse into a full-on Expanse-focused game, or whether it's mainly borrowing just the setting or simplifying everything else into a familiar RPG experience. And here's the thing, where this gets really interesting.
An Expanse role-playing game would be pretty hard to pull off, considering how big the stakes can easily be in this game.
Is that the answer to that question is not simple. And the reason being, there are real signs here that this is more mechanical.
This is from the TV show.
Thoughtful
This is not the
than a
game, this
generic
is TV
licensed
show.
game would perhaps be.
No, wait, is it TV show? No, they did something similar in the TV show.
There's also a very clear sign of compromise, and the most revealing part about all of this in that presentation is exactly where those two things interact with each other, where they collide. Now, the first genuinely promising area is the RPG aspect itself. Now, in beta, players are going to be able to choose between two presets, one more focused on gunplay and one more focused on abilities. But the important detail is not the combat role, it is the origin of all of this. The fact that you'll be able to choose between...
This is the first trailer that we have to show that it's the Expanse. You know, you got the click boot thing, gravity, and, you know, this.
Being a belter, an earther, and that the developers have explicitly stated that those choices affect your social skills, your dialogue options, exploration, and even some loot access as well. And this can be quite important to the overall gameplay experience, you know, because if being a belter, with being an earther or Martian, or all the identity that are doing some heavier lifting here. They're really doing some pretty important work, because if that turns out to be true, then the Expanse is not just being used as art direction here. You're not just looking a little bit different because you're a belter or because you're a Martian. You're not just got different equipment because you're from Earth or from Mars. There's also a social layer going on here, and that's entering the game directly. And if that turns out to be the case, and it's looking like it is, then it really would be the sort of thing I would want from this setting. Because in the Expanse, who you are is never just about flavor text. It's never just a few lines of dialogue that's attached to your name. Or
Yeah, if you haven't seen the Expanse or read it, then yeah, every faction in the Expanse, Earth, Belter, or Mars, is drastically different in the sense that what they want to achieve, what their goals are, and how actually things that happen impact them, and what is actually a bad thing that they could achieve by doing something. So I don't think it's possible to. Well, maybe if you're going for a genetic start for a character that you can pick your background, but the scope is too large here to actually legitimately start as one of the three factions and actually experience it properly.
it's not just the colour of your uniform. It ultimately shapes how people speak to you, what doors open for you in that universe, what power you actually have, what you can attain, and how the world reacts to your presence. And that goes far beyond at the start of Mass Effect, just choosing which version of Commander Shepard you are, doesn't it? This is a very different thing indeed. And then there's the second promising area, which is combat. Now, this is where the reveal in the trailer could easily have flattened into something quite ordinary, just another RPG, a space-based game. And yes, to be clear, the developers are very direct here. It is all at the core a cover-based third-person shooter. I think we all got that impression very quickly and very early on from both the gameplay trailers that we've actually seen. So, the interesting thing here, however, that's going to change things a little bit, is they're strongly advising players stick to cover. And now, if you imagine how this playing out, if you've got the ability to free float in 0G, and then you've got gunfights here, or people walking across with mag boots along the ceiling or along the walls, and, well, that's a lot of physical movement, that's a lot of spatial freedom, isn't it? And it doesn't appear to be what the game is, because how do you relate these two to each other? If you've got people flying around in 0G, if you've got people walking around on the ceilings above you, then how do you tie that to a cover-based third-person shooter? Inherently, these feel like they could well be two different things. But it seems to me the way the developers are resolving this, the fact that you might be hiding behind a crate and then there's someone immediately above you that can see you regardless, is that there's a whole load of other things going on. And the developers talk about gadgets.
A lot of potential for different gameplay when you add that level of 3D maneuverability. But I don't think it's that hard because we have had games like, honestly, Dead Space, I guess, that do the whole 0G movement thing pretty decently. So there's no reason to assume that it's not going to be possible here. Now, granted, if you're making a cover-based shooter, and we're talking about a lot of situations with zero gravity, because, that's the whole Expanse universe, that's a bit different, but, interesting at the bare minimum. There's a lot of possibilities how this could go.
Companion commands, destructible environments, and most importantly, there's an active pause. And this slows time down to around about 10%. It doesn't full on freeze it, not completely, but it slows things down enough that you can take time to look around, to assess what's going on around you, and then perhaps place your abilities, activate them, reposition some of your companions. And
this does seem honestly like it's some kind of Mass Effect situation, because the actual gameplay trailers, you're pretty close third person view. You got your sniper rifles, you got your everything. You got your gadgets here, like in this segment right there. There's a shield, there's a deployable drone. That's a sniper right there, and then you have like a shield bash charge ability. The people who are calling it the true Mass Effect successor, definitely kind of seem onto something. And obviously, since this is a game, I think liberties can be made, and we can easily go into space magic because, well, the proto molecule is effectively fucking space magic at the end of the day. And, you can travel to worlds with aliens because of the gate. There's a lot of options, effectively, that could be done. There is a lot of there's a lot of future potential also for this. So as long as the game is not abysmal, you can probably fit it to, well, pretty much cater to a lot of different people and what they want to see. It would be amazing.
In your line of sight. And this, to me, is quite a big detail because it opens up a lot of possibilities in this type of zero-G environment. Now, obviously, we won't know for sure until we get hands-on with this, but the through line here, the general idea, at least from what I can tell, seems to be that if things play out as I've just described, then it pushes the game away from being a straight action shooter and closer to being something more tactical, a bit more party-driven with you and your different companions, and also a bit more RPG-minded. And considering who are behind this, Owlcat Games, and these are perhaps one of the best known and certainly provide some of the best CRPGs out there, then this would seem like a very realistic direction for them to take. And that's the real question I have here. Which direction of those two is the game actually going to take? For me, from what I've seen so far, it seems to be leaning more towards this complex tactical side rather than the full-on action Mass Effect side. But, time will tell. I guess for now, the answer really seems to be maybe, slanting towards the more complex aspect. Now, there's another more encouraging aspect as well here. I've been talking about the areas I've liked through that presentation and what we've learned about the game so far. The third area is the companions, as well as the ship aspect of the game. So there are 6 companions in total, and you can take up to 2 with you in missions in the full game, and the others stay behind on board the ship. But
now, the obvious thing that I like about this game is the fact that we're not seeing a lot of Vogue bullshit here, okay? We're not seeing a lot of wokeness. We are seeing, well, we did see a black woman at the start, but in this thing, yeah, you're supposed to expect that at least a little bit.
here's the important thing, they don't simply vanish into the menu system. What the developers have said is that those companions can still remain engaged in the mission, albeit from the ship. They can advise you, they can be assigned roles or activities, and depend on what's going on, the results can actually differ. Now, I'm going to be careful.
No typical, what you would expect modern day fugly, new male, zero gender, they, them bullshit fucking looking crap also. Like, this series, well, not series, but this game currently is exhibiting 0 red flag traits.
Here that we don't turn this into some deep fantasy, some hype-driven idea of deep ship simulation. I don't think that's what's going on here. The presentation didn't really touch on any ideas like that. What we did seem to be told, what seemed to be going on, is that there was hints of something very valuable going on, and that is persistence. The idea there suggests that the crew is more than just an away team, and that the ship itself may feel more like an ongoing space that you experience the game from. Something a little bit more that you can engage with, that you can directly make use of. Something a bit more important than just a simple hub. And again, if that turns out to be true,
yeah,
fits right in with the Expanse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Ships in that universe, after all, they're not just about transportation. They're not just about getting you from A to B. The Rocinante was not just a vehicle that the crew used. It was a home, it was a workplace, and of course it was very fragile but very powerful at the same time. All of these things pressing in at each other, creating that resistance, that dynamic that's instantly recognizable when it comes to the Expanse. It's also important, though, to be very clear here, because the question was directly asked whether or not you'll have direct control over the ship in a game such as in a game like Elite Dangerous or any other space sim out there. The answer to that is no, you will not directly be piloting the ship.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna make a role-play game and a huge part of it is flying a ship, that's one kind of part to do. because then you need to have, normal first-person combat mechanics, or in this case, third-person, and then you need to make ship combat and make it meaningful. But in the Expanse universe, I mean, ship combat is very cool. By the way, this is the small trails of things that bullets leave. By the way, it's cool, but there's not supposed to be a lot of shit in space. That's kind of like the big thing about the Expanse universe.
But there will be a lot of cutscenes of the ship flying from A to B, and there will definitely be indications of the passage of time as you're on board your ship. And then we come to the part that I feel is the most interesting out of everything, but it's also perhaps the most questionable as well. Touched on it earlier, this is 0G. So the developers have said that you will get the ability to go outside. You will have to explore the vacuum of space, and you will experience that vastness of space in the proper Expanse style. But they also say you'll always be using mag boots, or at least they made it clear that will be the case during the upcoming closed beta, specifically so that you don't get dragged far too off into space, that you won't be floating away into the deep, never to...
Okay. Well, so far it looks like the Expanse game is kind of shaping up decently. Now, he didn't show any actual gameplay things that we currently have, which all seem very third person, a very Mass Effect-ish. And Mass Effect stuff is good, especially when they're talking about the role-play actual game. So, currently, I'm kind of very hopeful about this one. Again, there's no early instant red flags here. And, the one prominent black woman that we saw here is most likely a baddie. So, that's very accurate, okay? In any case, that was Obsidian and 10 out of 10. Bye.